Are you thinking of making a move to Houston, Texas, and currently researching the cost of living here? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you the ugly truths that you definitely need to know about before you make that commitment. And after watching this video, you will be well equipped with the information that you need to make the decision to move to Houston or not. And we're gonna get after it right now. Hey, if you're new to my channel, first of all, thank you so much for being here. We cover the entire greater Houston area from suburb to suburb, city to city, so you can know exactly what to expect whenever you relocate here to the Houston area. And if that is the kind of content that you are looking for, hit the subscribe button down below and tap the bell icon so you can be the first to know about the current market conditions here in Houston. My name is Andrew Lake. I'm with the Life in Houston Realty team, and we get calls and texts from people just like you all of the time wanting to relocate here to the Houston area. So whether you are 9 days out or 9 months out, it doesn't matter. Feel free to reach out to us. All of our contact information will be in the description box down below, and we would be delighted to help you make a smooth move to Houston. Now, let's take a closer look at the cost of living here in Houston. The two first ugly truths that I want you to know about are, in my opinion, the absolute most important, and then that is property taxes and insurance. Let's kick off this video with talking about insurance because that seems to be a very hot topic nowadays. So Houston is located in a coastal area, and unfortunately, we are prone to natural disasters such as hurricanes and flooding. And due to recent storms and hurricanes such as Hurricane Beryl, or even the most catastrophic one we've had in a long time, Hurricane Harvey, insurance carriers are leaving the state of Texas entirely. And I think that we are in the beginning stages of becoming an underserved region of the United States, which ultimately I believe legislatures may step in. And carriers who remain here in the state of Texas and continuing to write insurance policies for homeowners are increasing their rates. Well, just because they can, they know their competition is leaving, so it's an unfortunate nature of the business. And according to S&P Global, insurance premiums across the state of Texas have increased 23%, which is the highest in the nation. NerdWallet also surveyed about 100 different carriers and found out that Houstonians are paying on average around $4,400 a year for insurance premiums that cover against wind, hail, and rain, which is twice the national average and the highest among the other 20 metropolitan areas that were surveyed in other states. And I can't sugarcoat this really sucks. I'm not gonna tell you what you want to hear. I'm gonna tell you the truth and what you need to hear before you make a commitment moving down to Houston. So what can you do about this? Well, we recommend speaking with an insurance agent about the potential premiums for the type of property that you're looking for and the price range that you're seeking in before you make that commitment. A general rule of thumb here is the more expensive the home, typically the higher the insurance premium will be. One thing that you can do is knowing and understanding your budget before you begin the house shopping process, because insurance premiums nowadays could very well put you over that qualifying range. We have seen this become a recurring theme lately. And the next insurance policy that you should watch out for is all about flood. So is the property or the area that you're looking to move to within the Houston area or Houston region, is it located in a flood zone? And the easiest way to tell that is to go into FEMA flood maps, type in the address, and see if that potential property or area is located in a flood zone. And if you bear with me, I'll show you exactly how to do this real quick. So let's dive into my computer and I'll show you exactly where to go to and type all this in so you can see for yourself if it's in a flood zone. So the first thing you're going to do is head on over to Google and type in FEMA flood map. So FEMA flood map on Google, and what you're going to want to look for, not just flood maps, you're going to look for FEMA flood map service center. So go ahead and click on that and let that load. Okay, so now we are in the FEMA Flood Map Service Center, and what you're going to want to do is, if you have an address already in mind, you can type the address in there, or if you simply want to browse around in different areas to make sure certain areas are or are not in a flood zone, then type in the area that you want to go to. So let's just type in Friendswood, for example. All right, so I've typed in Friendswood and we'll hit search and we'll let that load. All right, now the page is loaded, so what we're going to do is scroll down here into the satellite view. You can see we're a little bit too far out, so not much is really going to load. So let's zoom in a random spot here in Friendswood and we'll let this load. Okay, so right off the bat, you're going to see right here highlighted in blue, that is going to be your Zone AE or your 100-year floodplain. If there's any property that you're interested in that is in this floodplain, this is where you are going to be required to carry your flood insurance. So let's zoom in here and see what that looks like. So you can see we have several properties here. This may all be one giant neighborhood, who knows? But at the end of the day, there's a portion of the neighborhood that is not located in a flood zone, and there is a portion that is located in the flood zone. So you could be next door to somebody who has to have insurance and you don't. So it just really depends on where you fall on the FEMA flood map. So one thing to note here is if you also are if you are located in this gold or orange colored shaded area here, that is zone X. So zone X is the 500-year floodplain. And you will not be required to carry flood insurance if you're in the 500-year floodplain. But if you're in the blue shaded section, zone AE, or otherwise known as the 100-year floodplain, you will be forced to carry flood insurance. So the easiest way to determine this is obviously if you have an address already, if you have a couple properties in mind, or even if you've identified a neighborhood, you can just pull a random address from that neighborhood, plug it here into the map service center, and it will tell you if you are located in a flood zone. So if the property that you're interested in purchasing is located in zone AE, aka a flood zone, then you will be required to carry what's called flood insurance. It is a lender requirement. If you are financing a home, you cannot get past that. In addition to that, you will also need what's called an elevation certificate to get an accurate quote from an insurance carrier when it comes to property located in flood zones. This is typically provided by the seller. The seller should have one. If they have a property located in a flood zone, they should already have an elevation cert because they had to provide that to their insurance agent as well. Now, if the property is not located in a flood zone and you still want that additional layer of security for yourselves and that extra peace of mind, you most certainly can purchase a flood policy. Now, if you're not located in a flood zone and you want a flood policy, typically it's the exact same range all across the board. Last time I looked, it was around $750. Here's the thing to note though, if a storm is in the Gulf of Mexico and all of a sudden you get scared and you're like, hey, I want flood insurance, just in case a storm does approach Houston and things get really crazy here, well, you cannot get flood insurance if a storm is in the Gulf. So bear that in mind whenever you are house shopping during hurricane season. So we talked about Houston being near the coast. Now there's a couple things extra that you need to know when it comes to insurance, and that is coastal counties. And the two biggest counties in the Houston region are going to be Brazoria County and Galveston County. Galveston County, popular suburban cities are going to be, the cities like Friendswood or Dickinson and League City, Texas City, and then of course Galveston Island. And then on the Brazoria County side, the most popular city that you're probably aware of is going to be Pearland. If you purchase a home that is located in either one of those counties, you are going to be required to carry what's called a windstorm insurance policy. Now you have two options when it comes to windstorm insurance. You can either get a separate policy written through TWIA, which is the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, or you can have your insurance agent go ahead and roll that all into one policy for you. I would recommend going that route rather than going through TWIA. TWIA is a much more expensive avenue, and it is a state-run funded program. So if you could, I would highly encourage you to get quotes from your insurance carrier to roll it all into one singular policy. Okay, so now we're going to move on to property tax here in the state of Texas. And here in Texas, it's not only insurance that you need to watch out for, it's the property taxes here as well. Now, each neighborhood can have a different tax rate, and I understand that might sound confusing for some of you who aren't familiar with the Texas property tax codes. A general rule of thumb that I like to tell my clients is the newer the community, typically the higher the tax rate will be. However, that's not always the case. Let me tell you about the time that I purchased a home in Brazoria County. When we purchased a home in Brazoria County, it was a new construction community and the tax rate was around 2.2%. However, directly across the street from us, there was another newer development and another building new construction homes, and their tax rate was at 3.6%. A big difference, especially when it comes to your monthly payments. And one of those reasons why was called a MUD tax, MUD, which is the Municipal Utility District. And that is a tax that is levied on commercial and private property to repay bonds and loans that were issued to the developer to basically fund utility services and infrastructure, essentially just building out the community in general. However, it's not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom. A MUD tax will be removed eventually, and over time, the tax rates will start to decrease until the MUD tax is removed in its entirety when the bond is paid back. And in addition to that, there's also something called a PID, which is a Public Improvement District. And that is another tax that is used to fund community amenities like sidewalks, parks, roads, landscaping, etc. And those are there for at least 5 years before they start getting removed. However, they will go away over time. But like I said, those two taxes are typically found in the newer development communities. However, it is important for you to note that there are many new construction communities scattered throughout the entire greater Houston region that don't have either one of these taxes. So it's important for you to know if you're gonna move into a new construction community, find out what you're getting yourself into. And if you drive around and you see new construction signs, you'll see developer signs that'll say, they'll advertise it. If they don't have those taxes, they will definitely advertise it. You'll see on the signs, they'll say no PID tax, no MUD tax. So that's your indicator that they have typically a lower tax rate. Whenever you are home shopping, I want you to pay attention to the tax rates for the communities that you find yourself wanting to live in. Oftentimes, mortgage calculators don't take into the account the correct property tax and the insurance numbers. If you're relocated to the Houston area and this is going to be your primary residence and not like an investment property or a secondary home, then you should apply for a homestead exemption, a Texas homestead exemption right away. Now, it's not going to save you thousands upon thousands of dollars a year. However, it does save you a little bit of money towards the end of the year. So I would recommend as soon as you close on the home that you go ahead and file for homestead exemption. In addition to that, if you are a disabled veteran, you may have other tax breaks available to you within the certain counties that you decide to call home, depending on your VA rating. All right, while all of that may sound terrible, don't write off Houston just yet. So let's talk about some of the basic necessities that we all need regardless of where we decide to call home. And we're gonna start off with housing. So for housing here in the Houston area, we are averaging 2% higher than the state, and we are 17% lower than the national average. So you're already saving a little bit of money there depending on where you're coming from. And the median home price is around $405,000 with the median rent price of $1,300. Utilities here are 3% lower than the national average, and our main service providers here are Texas, New Mexico Power, and CenterPoint Energy. Our average electric bill here is around $186, and of course that is going to depend on the energy efficiency of your home. Like if you have good insulation, if you have a well-equipped, well-serviced, well-maintained HVAC unit, and then new windows, things like that. If you have a very poor energy efficient home, then your electricity bill is obviously gonna be much higher here in those hot summer months. Average phone bill here for 2 people is around $211. Moving on to healthcare, we are 5% lower than the national average, and we have here in the Houston Medical Center, which is one of the largest and best medical centers in the country, if not the world. Average doctor visits here cost around $95, all depending on the specialty that you choose. Moving on to transportation costs, we are 9% lower than the national average and 6% lower than the state average. Average price per gallon of fuel here is $2.82 per gallon. And many of you probably are aware that Texas is an oil and gas state. Many oil and gas headquarters are located here in the Houston area in the energy corridor. And then last but not least, food and grocery. We are right on par with the national average. We are neither above or below. It's also important to note that Texas does not have state income tax or personal property tax. So while our property tax here does suck, you do save some money by not having to pay additional taxes on your income or personal property. In total, the cost of living here in Houston is 6% below the national average. So even though Houston may be more expensive in some categories than others compared to the national average, at the end of the day, Houston, Texas is still a wonderfully affordable place for you to call home. Hey, if you found value in this video, help support the channel by hitting the subscribe button down below and tapping the bell icon so you can be the first to know about the current market conditions here in Houston. My goal is for you to know everything that you need to know in order to make the best decision for yourself and for your family whenever you are in research mode. We help people just like you relocate to the Houston area, and you can contact us using the information in the description box down below, and we would be delighted and honored to help make your transition to Houston, Texas a smooth one. Signing off for now, until next time.